It's 20 years since the state of Mississippi was encountered. How about that, Rhino, in a nice way of putting it, by Hurricane Katrina, which, of course, upon that encounter, swept across our state northward and left an unbelievable amount, incomprehensible amount of damage in its wake. And we're going to talk to retired Colonel Mark Prine. He's retired from the Mississippi National Guard, and he had some experience during the Katrina years. Hey, Colonel, good to see you, sir.
Good morning, Gerard. How are you this morning?
Doing fantastic. So it's just incredible to think that 20 years have passed since this event, which turned our world here in Mississippi, certainly in Louisiana as well, upside down. What do you most vividly recall about that time period?
What I remember most is that we were the Mississippi National Guard was having a leadership conference the Thursday and Friday before the storm came rolling in. So we were all in Jackson, and we were given, the directive then of, go ahead and start assembling your units, get ready to go. This is out there. We may not need you. We might, we just really did not know. And so we began assembling our units. And then after the storm passed over and we couldn't communicate with anybody, we knew something was up. And so we, began making those moves towards the Gulf Coast with our units. And then the other thing to kind of remember is the Mississippi National Guard, most of the units that responded had been home less than a year from a deployment to Iraq and Kuwait.
Wow.
So a lot of combat vets that knew to move out to the sound of gunfire, and that's what we did when we didn't hear anything. And so we got down there very soon after that and began recovery operations.
Man. Well, the National Guard played a critical and crucial role, did they not, Colonel, in just helping the residents of the area, many of whom were just completely without anything?
Yes, I mean, I was at the beginning of the deployment down there, had a combat service support battalion, the 298th from Philadelphia, and our subordinate units. So we were providing food, water, fuel, helping support the engineer units from the National Guard that were down there doing cleanup work, really anything that needed to happen. And I think that's what's most amazing is because the National Guard is tasked with this, we began seeing people from all over, National Guards from across the United States showing up to assist. I mean, one of the first people I ran across was a friend of mine from Alabama. Then just a couple of days into it, ran across a young man I had served with in Kuwait, who was from Maryland, and they had, were all sending units to respond to assist with Mississippi's recovery efforts.
Yeah, and Colonel, when folks sign up to serve in the National Guard, they understand that they could be called into action, could be mobilized in the event of a natural disaster like Hurricane Katrina.
Yes, that's true, and for many of us, I'm from Hattiesburg. I had gone north to meet up with my unit in Philadelphia and left my family in the wake of the storm. I remember a first sergeant that was with our task force who was from New Orleans. He had left his family there and come north to be with his unit that was based out of Jackson. We loaned him a vehicle so he could go into New Orleans and find out if his family was okay or not.
Wow.
That's also how we kind of found out how New Orleans was responding to the event, was by what he was telling us after he got back from that trip over.
So, Colonel, what has been learned? What information and knowledge have been gained since this event that you feel like better positions and prepares our National Guard and first responders overall in the, God forbid, event we have another one like this?
The agreements across the states that allow us to respond to events in other states when called upon by their governors. That is one of the events. The other one is we have done so much to prepare for this now. You got to remember, for Katrina, there was a kind of a quote-unquote fuel crisis.
Yeah.
So now we have develop places that we can get fuel from, that, there's a ready supply in the event of another natural disaster. There are several locations across the state where there's a fuel that's available for that. Same thing with potable water. Mm-hmm. Boy, we learned so much about communications during that. our short-range radio, since we were covering the entire Gulf Coast, the lower six, our short-range radio wouldn't work, so we have put new communication protocols in place to help with that. To be perfectly honest with you, I learned how to text at Katrina, and I was taught by my operation officer, Colonel Lee Henry, at Commander at Camp Shelby now, was taught by his teenage daughter over the phone how to learn how to text. So, we've learned a lot from that.
Yeah, and the interoperability was a big problem, talking about the various communication systems. And many of these communication systems were new. Of course, those are always being enhanced and improving, but interoperability was a problem, Colonel. I remember seeing photos, video of first responders, and they would be weighted down with multiple devices around their person, just depending on who they needed to communicate with.
Yep, that's true. Everybody was walking around with 2 or 3 different kind of radios in their pocket so they could reach out to other things. Many kudos to the state of Mississippi. I mean, they have developed a plan now that includes not just the National Guard, but all of the departments within the state government who have responsibilities for response now. I've got to give much praise, even during Katrina, then Governor Barber, Major General Harold Cross, our TAG, General Ike Pilot, who were overseeing those operations and making things happen, because we learned very quickly that we were actually responding and having a good response for this than other locations were. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we've been fortunate. We're going to knock on some wood this year. Hasn't been too bad. Really haven't had any major storms come our way. The biggest one last week, I guess, was out in the Atlantic and sort of grazed the Atlantic coast. But we're getting better, as you said. It appears we're more prepared. We have more warning, and then when something does happen, it does appear that. And then the president, who recognized, I guess, some of the shortcomings in some recent response, especially in the Carolinas, he's taking some action there to improve that situation as well, and even has our former governor, Phil Bryant, involved in kind of reorganizing and restructuring FEMA.
Yes. I'm not even go down the road with what we saw with FEMA from Katrina.
Yeah.
But MEMA, our state agency, was wonderful to work with, did a tremendous job. I will share the story with you that we, as a couple of weeks after the storm, we were starting to see congressional junkets come out of Washington to come look at the devastation and stuff, and had a congressman from Kansas who had visited New Orleans and then came to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and his quote, or his statement to me was, this is nothing like what we're seeing anyplace else. Y'all have got this figured out.
Yeah. And I think we have to give some props to our Governor Haley Barbour at the time, who, can speak incredibly about this and extensively and exhaustively about what happened there. I mean, this just landed in his lap, having been the governor at the time. But I think he did a good job in making sure that Mississippi got the resources it needed to respond.
Definitely, I agree. When I'm standing on the runway at Gulfport and watching Air Force One come over my head just a couple of days after the storm, we knew that we had tremendous support coming out of from the governor's office, and then also coming out of the national government as well.
Yeah. And Colonel, what about National Guard high-level leaders? We got to give them some props. And, of course, those on the ground that were involved. But they seem to always be able to orchestrate what are really monumental tasks like this. This is what the military is super good at.
Yes, I mean, I've got to give props to my friends within the MPs and the aviation community, both Army and Air, the engineers. I mean, because these were all seasoned folks that hit the ground, knew that, let's go ahead. We see what needs to be done. Let's go ahead and do it, and we'll kind of figure things out later on. And certainly that's with General Cross, General Pilot, and their staff from the Adjutant General's office in Jackson. They did a tremendous job figuring all that out and making all that happen.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So at this point, Colonel, what do you expect in terms of just recruiting new folks into the National Guard, making sure we have enough people there in case this happens again to help us out?
Yes, I mean, this is the National Guard is not first responders. Everybody needs to kind of plan on taking care of themselves for the first 72 hours, but as the response comes in, you know, if the local leaders need assistance, they reach out to the National Guard, and we're ready, willing, and able for them to go forward. Young people need to consider that as an option. They're not only the possibility that they'll be serving their nation, but they are serving right here at home, because it's not just Katrina. The response, of course, was the major one, but, you know, any kind of events come up, whether it's flooding, whether it's an ice storm or anything like that, they, you know, ready, willing, and able to do that. And the opportunities the National Guard has now with benefits for young people coming in for education and to go to school, it's a great opportunity for any of those.
Great words. Appreciate it, Carl. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your service, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We're coming right back in the Element Well studio.